It's time to join Montana's very own and your voice for agriculture, Talkin' Ag Lane Nordlund, for today's Lanecast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another conversation on the Lanecast Ag Podcast. And it's a topic I thought would be done by now, but we are still talking about Argentinian beef imports, and the countryside is fired up. And joining me once again here today is Colin Woodall, CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And Colin, it just seems that this topic just continues to snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger. A Truth Social post by President Trump today, ultimately taking credit for higher cattle prices and I guess calling out ranchers for not being grateful, essentially. I've had probably about 6 phone calls from producers here today that are Trump supporters. They voted for Trump 3 times, and they are very upset with the president's comments and plan to import more Argentinian beef. And how are things going there at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association? What is your reaction to President Trump's Truth Social post, which we'll show on the screen here right now? What has been the reaction from the nation's cattle producers?
Well, it was a pretty bold move for him to come out and take full credit for all the success that we are seeing as an industry right now. But when you look at the president's track record, especially his engagement on Truth Social, it's not surprising that we saw that today, because it's obvious he is not happy with our complaints against his plan on Argentina. He's also not happy with how we are talking about this in the media. We've been covering the media, but the fundamentals still remain the same as when you and I talked last. This industry has worked for decades to build the quality of beef that we're seeing today. And the consumer wants our product, and they continue to buy it even at this price point. So with the president coming out and saying that consumer prices must go down, he is, in essence, telling us as cattle producers to suck it up and take a lower price. And as we talked about, that is unacceptable to us, especially given where this industry has been over the years, our ability to take some time here to heal up with this market, but more importantly, to get paid for what we're producing, and a consumer that continues to tell us that they love what we're producing. So for him to take full credit of that, I think it's just a little disingenuous, because that has been an effort by the industry for decades now to get us to this point.
And while the focus obviously are on those comments too, there's outrage in the countryside, but once again, those cattle markets reacted to that news. Just pulling those up here on the afternoon of October 22nd, live cattle in December down $5.60 at $239.82. February down nearly $6 at $240.37. And there's the feeder cattle limiting out again, down 9 1/4 across all those contracts once again, except for that expiring front month. Colin, that most likely will have an impact on cow-calf producers too, even though it really shouldn't in the local livestock markets, just because of some comments of someone that has never pulled a calf before either.
Just like what we saw the market do on Friday, today's reaction is a direct result of the president's comments and his actions and what he's done. We all know that markets don't like uncertainty and markets don't like chaos. And the president now has inserted both uncertainty and both chaos into the marketplace. We're doing all we can to remind Capitol Hill, our friends on Capitol Hill, also the White House and USDA, that this is a critical time of year for this industry. It's the fall run. In a lot of cases, it's the one paycheck that producers get a year. And anytime we see that market get a little shaky, absolutely is going to have an impact on our bottom line. And again, from comments that have not been well thought out, and on a proposal such as importing more Argentinian beef that actually won't do what the president wants it to do. There were some great statistics out today that we saw where if Argentina took all of the beef that they typically export around the world and sent 100% of it to the United States, that would only add about 2.5% to the U.S. beef supply. That is not enough to bring the consumer price down. And more importantly, it's not the same quality as our product. So here we are as producers taking the financial hit on a plan that wouldn't even do what the president wanted it to do, and that is to try to bring down the price for consumers.
Where has the Secretary of Agriculture been in these conversations too? Obviously, last night she was referencing a big announcement and just following the White House press corps this morning. That press conference did not actually take place today. What has been the conversations with the secretary? Is she listening, or who is she listening to?
Here this afternoon, we did see a press statement from USDA rolling out their ideas on different things that they could do, things such as rolling back regulatory burdens in hopes of helping producers. We, of course, will look into it. We will make sure that we dig in to find out all the details. This is Washington, D.C., and we know the devil's always in the details. So we need to understand that and also understand the commitment to actually move forward. It has to be more than just rhetoric or a press release. There needs to be some plan to actually implement what they want to do. So more to come on that, but it's obvious that we have the attention of the administration, and they understand that cattle producers are not happy with what we're seeing from the president right
Now, Colin, jumping back to that Argentina beef headline as well. Currently, it's a 20,000 metric ton import quota. I'm hearing rumblings that the president wanted to quadruple that. And again, these are still just conversations to 80,000 million metric tons. Why such a large jump? Again, you mentioned, you referenced just how much beef it would take to even have an impact here in the U.S. But why is the president so focused on helping Argentina's government when row crop farmers in the U.S. are needing more assistance than anyone right now?
now? That's a great question to ask, because it's not just the beef deal that he's talking about. And you're right. Well, you've also heard that this could be 80,000 metric tons, which is roughly about 176 million pounds of beef. But there's also additional monies that he apparently has committed to help Argentina. And when you look at the plight of our friends in the row crop world today, yeah, I think you're asking the right question. I hope they're asking that question too. But all of this stemmed from a conversation that he had with the Argentinian president. And as you historically see, when he meets with these world leaders, that becomes the news of the day for a while, at least here in this case, several days. It's important to remember that NCBA is very supportive of international trade. And we are not changing our policy. We're not changing our position. But there are rules to trade. There are protocols to trade. And all of that seems to be being pitched out the window. And then we also step back and look at the food safety concerns that we have long had in South America, whether it's foot and mouth disease on the food or on the animal health side, to any sort of foodborne pathogen that could impact us. In order for a country to be able to export their product to the United States, they have to meet the exact same food safety and animal welfare standards as we do as U.S. producers. And we have asked USDA to send a team down there to make sure that what they're doing on the ground is in line with what they have been reporting. And we've had some trouble being able to look at those two and see if they really are a match. And that needs to happen before any additional discussions are had with Argentina about their access to our market. Again, it's important to remember the president's plan is not going to bring down prices. And as a result, he's told us to just simply take lower prices.
And with that too, jumping back to the Secretary of Agriculture's involvement, Colin, she made some comments about onshoring and offshoring beef and beef processing. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, so she was on Squawk Box, which is on CNBC channel. And she kept talking about wanting to onshore our beef production. Well, it's not an accurate statement or an accurate assessment of what really goes on in this country. And if you're a consumer that's watching that, and you hear the secretary talk about onshoring beef production, it gives the impression that all we're eating is foreign product here, and that's not the case. When you look at U.S. beef production, we consume about 85% of it here in the United States. We really need the administration to start looking at the long game here. And that is, how do they help us preserve this industry, to ensure that it remains viable, and to provide opportunities for all of us, existing farmers and ranchers and new and beginning farmers and ranchers, to be able to come in, get in this business or grow our business and continue to produce the high quality beef that we've already talked about. The consumers said that they want. They want it not only here, but they want it globally. And that's what we need the administration to start focusing their time on. And in doing so, rolling back some regulatory burdens would go a long way in helping that.
And Colin, too, conversations that folks are having online too. We know the price of beef is higher. Consumers are still turning to it. They're purchasing it. There's other cheaper proteins out there, pork and poultry. We know that. But it just seems too that maybe consumers may get turned off of beef because of all the rhetoric that has come up over the past few days. You look at any headline now, whether it's here domestically or internationally, all the mainstream media is, why is beef so high? That those are the headlines there. I think looking at that too, cattle producers should be very concerned, not just with the markets being limited down today on the feeder side, but the potential impact that beef demand could have over the next few months. Because, again, the president, who I mentioned before, has never pulled a calf. He's never gone out and branded. Probably, maybe he has. I don't know. I guarantee you, he probably hasn't pulled a calf. But it truly could impact prices during these times where producers are experiencing well-deserved. Cow-calf producers are receiving great prices for years of drought and having to liquidate their herds.
Lane, you bring up a great question, and that is, what is the consumer's response here? Because this discussion is being had in mainstream media. It's not just a trade media issue. It's not just a discussion we're talking about in agriculture, especially when the president takes to his own online social media platform to talk about it. We know the consumer is watching. It's too early to tell if that's going to turn them off or have them look elsewhere. But, your earlier conversation or comment is one that I think is very important. We don't like to talk about the alternatives out there because we don't believe the alternatives are as good as our product. But there are alternatives out there: chicken, pork, turkey. We are seeing the consumers stick with us because they want to buy beef, not that they have to buy beef. And I think we talked about this last time. That's a very important distinction that everybody needs to keep in mind. When the consumer wants to buy something, that means that they are taking their hard-earned dollar at the price we're talking about, and they're still willing to make that investment because they know when they take it home, they're going to have an awesome eating experience. Because they can have an eating experience at home just by stopping off at Sam's Club and getting some prime graded beef, where 5 years ago, in the first term of President Trump, they would have had to have gone to a white tablecloth restaurant. And while that is still an opportunity that a lot of people enjoy, and we encourage that too, it shows that the landscape has changed both for the consumer and for us as producers. As I said, with that higher quality product, we're just asking to be compensated for that. But the president continues to maintain his rhetoric that the prices have to come down. And the only way prices come down for the consumer is by us being forced to take lower prices for our cattle. And again, we're just not finding that an acceptable approach by the president of the United States.
Colin, there's a lot of issues that Congress and the administration should be focused on right now. We are in the middle of a government shutdown, and I know USDA, probably from a PR perspective of things, announced this morning for producers on the cropping end of things that ARC and PLC payments will go out. The shutdown is still in effect, but there was a lot of folks, especially in the West, that were very hopeful that issues like the delisting of gray wolves could be addressed. The delisting of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem of grizzly bears could occur as well. There's a lot of issues impacting producers in the countryside, and inputs remain high as well. Uh, why the fixation though on Argentina and beef prices from the administration this week when there's so many other issues impacting rural America at hand?
You're right. You just named several. You look east of the Mississippi, you have things like black buzzards, black vultures that have just been a bane to the existence of cattle producers. There's any number of things that would go a long way in giving producers the support they need, the incentives they need, and the reduced regulatory burden in order to grow their operations. And that's what the president needs to be looking at. You had mentioned Capitol Hill. We understand that there were 30 U.S. senators that went and communicated to the president that what he's talking about on beef prices and on Argentina is wrong. And it's because we have had just a tremendous outcry from cattle producers, members of NCBA, that have made it very clear to their member of Congress and their 2 senators that we also need them to engage in this discussion with the president. And we're seeing that. So we can't give up hope that we won't have the opportunity to look at some of these delistings, for example, and other regulatory burden rollbacks, but we have to maintain the rhetoric. So if you're listening to the Lanecast right now and you have not contacted your member of Congress or your 2 senators, we need you to do that and join the voices being heard, because there are tens of thousands of letters that have already been submitted just over the course of this week alone.
Well, speaking of those senators, obviously a lot of those senators met with the president too and put out written statements, but none of them were brave enough to do an on-camera interview and go on the record. I think they are a little scared of what could happen if they publicly speak outside of a written comment on the situation too with the president. And so it is good to hear there was face to face, but again, just a day later, the president making the Truth Social post about the cattle markets and whatnot there too. And Colin, I know it's a busy day for your team across the nation right now too, but what are some of the key things that folks should think about? And I've said it on our radio and our TV programs. There's not a lot of times when NCBA, U.S. Cattlemen's Association, and RCAF USA can all come out and say that they oppose an action by an administration and opposing more imports of Argentine beef. I think that goes to show the frustration and the concern of producers in the countryside as well. But you mentioned to contact their elected officials in DC. What else should they be aware of, and what are some of the other efforts NCBA is working on right now too?
Lane, here's the bottom line. You take all the other rhetoric out of it. You take Argentina out of it. What this issue really is about is cattle producers who have worked hard to gain the markets that we are seeing right now, being told by our president that we should just step back and take lower prices for our hard work. That's what this issue is about. And again, that's not acceptable. Let the markets work. We do not need government interference in the marketplace. And that's what we're seeing. As we have said, with chaos and uncertainty, those market hits that are driven by that are ones that we as cattle producers are left holding the bag on. And we've worked hard. We have earned this. We want to continue to be able to capitalize on these prices because we do want to grow our herd. We do want to grow our operations. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we can have this opportunity to give what the market is providing for us. And again, because of the effort we've put into it. So that's going to remain one of our top issues until we can get the president to understand that he is not right in asking us to just take lower prices. And then we have to continue to push Congress right now to get this government up and running again. We don't know how much longer this is going to go, but here we are on the 22nd of October. And for us, as cattle producers, we rely on animal and plant health inspection service officials. We rely on food safety inspection service officials. We rely on market news. USDA employees that are providing very critical services, essential services to keep us going as an industry. And they're doing it without a paycheck. And they have families at home. they have bills to pay, and this is putting them in a tough spot. So if anybody out there, if you know a market news reporter, if you see an inspector, if you know a USDA official who's out there, please stop and thank them, because they are showing up, they're not getting paid, they're helping us out, and we want to encourage them and let them know that we are doing our part in sending that message to Capitol Hill that we've got to get over this. We've got to get Congress up and running again, get the government up and running again, and let's take care of some real business.
Well, again, Colin Woodall joining us with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. We're continuing to track the developments and the drama surrounding what started as a simple statement by the president, and that has snowballed into the situation we are watching unfold out in Washington, D.C. this week. And I'm sure we'll probably see expanded trading limits once again tomorrow morning in the cattle futures, hopefully for the sake of our cattle producers that are maybe haven't marketed their cattle yet too, that those markets can recover and there's no impact in our local livestock markets either. But again, very concerning for producers out in the countryside. So Colin, thanks for the time today.
Thank you, Lane.
With that, friends, thanks for joining us on this special edition of the Lanecast Ag Podcast. I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lanecast with Talkin' Ag, Lane Nordlund. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lanecast on your Apple or Android devices. We look forward to joining you next time on the Lanecast.